What's going on, guys? It's the Unhinged Engineer here, and today I want to talk about something that I've honestly heard lots of horror stories from other young engineering professionals like myself describe in their careers and kind of the negative aspects that I've seen it have on them. I've heard a lot of what I'm about to discuss today, but I've never actually experienced it before in my own career and in my own life. And after going through this experience, I think I've learned a lot about this very common pitfall and mistake that lots of young engineers fall into, and how we can avoid some of those pitfalls and actually make it an opportunity instead of a setback. So yeah, I just want to talk about that. Probably be a shorter one, but I do feel like it will be helpful to anybody watching. So if you don't know, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for other young engineers like myself, and if you're trying to learn all the aspects of an engineering or STEM career that they don't really teach you in school, which a lot of times are the most difficult ones to tackle, then this is definitely the channel for you. So ultimately, what I'm talking about boils down to validation. I think for lots of reasons beyond the scope of this video or even this channel, as young people, we care a lot about validation. Some part of that is social media, some part of that is societal and cultural trends in general. For better or worse, we are a very open group of people that care about validation and acknowledgement from others. Again, there's a lot of reasons for that, but one I think is often talked about less is the impact that school has. There's lots of stories of the ill-fated gifted kid. What does that really mean? I think what it comes down to in terms of validation is school makes us accustomed to this very regular, titrated dose of acknowledgement and ultimately dopamine. You're in these little courses that each have little tests and little homeworks that you get to stay motivated. We are not good, and people are not good. For the record, this is not just a young person problem. People in general really struggle with delayed gratification, and I'm no different. So what it boils down to in terms of the irregularity of this feedback, and not only that, also the non-linearity of your progress. Because like there are some days I show up to work and I feel like I've made negative progress. Like I had setbacks towards whatever goal I was trying to achieve as compared to when I showed up for work that day. So all these things combine, and it makes us really susceptible to a natural human tendency, which is you do this work, you pour your heart and soul into it, you try your best, and then you don't get this feedback response that you want and that you're accustomed to. And then the natural human inclination is to pull back and to kind of like become more emotionally reserved, less invested, and start to slowly check out, not be sitting there waiting with bated breath for this validation. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing. It can be a good thing. Like there are definitely people, and I know I've been one of these people at certain points in my life, who are addicted to this validation, addicted to this, adoration and feedback and praise and all this stuff. And you can't operate as a functioning adult, let alone a successful professional, sitting there waiting for people to congratulate you all day. But it can also turn into this very negative doom spiral, which is you put in a lot of work, you invest a lot of time and energy into it, and then you don't get the feedback you're looking for. And then as a result, the next time around, you invest less, you don't put in as much effort, and you don't make as high quality as you did the first time. And then if you didn't get feedback or good feedback the first time, what do you think is gonna happen now? Well, now you're gonna get even less good feedback. And then it's gonna cause you to withdraw even more. And then you're gonna get even less feedback and less acknowledgement. And then eventually you just become someone who's basically sitting around doing nothing, right? Because nobody ever gave you positive acknowledgement for the things you did do, and it's been a long time since you did any of them because you stopped caring, because nobody was actually motivating you to care. Ultimately, that leads to bad outcomes, both for your employer and for you. So this negative doom spiral of withdrawal, I've really seen happen to lots of young people, and there's almost like a young person sentiment to this. Like there's the whole concept of quiet quitting, where your company is just not giving you what you deserve, and so you don't quit, you just milk them for all they're worth until they fire you and you get severance or whatever else. Or you get another offer to another company. I understand these perspectives, or the perspectives that lead to stuff like quiet quitting, and I'm not saying that in every case, emotionally withdrawing a little bit and reducing your emotional attachment to your work is a bad thing in all cases. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is people often don't talk about the downside, because in a lot of ways we have a very anti-corporate culture. Companies are not as loyal to their employees as they once were. Employees are rightfully pissed. And so there's a lot of righteous indignation around stuff like quiet quitting or job hopping or whatever else you want to talk about here. Because we have such an anti-corporate culture, people talk a lot more than they used to about not working as hard as you possibly can. And if you look at other countries around the world, like Japan's a great example, The culture there is completely different, but that's a topic for another video. What do I advise you do instead of falling into this doom spiral of kind of withdrawal from your work until ultimately something really bad happens, like you get laid off, or you get put in an awful position that you just actively hate every day instead of being content with and just not motivated for? Like, how do we avoid this outcome? I really think the most important thing is if you believe in the work you're doing and you really believe it's important, both for you and for the company that you're a part of, regardless of the kind of feedback you're getting, the most important thing to do in that scenario is double down and invest even more. Because if you're not getting the feedback you deserve, there could be a lot of reasons for that. But the thing that will ultimately cut through all those other reasons, which are really just noise at the end of the day, is the quality of the work you do as an individual, right? So take back some individual agency in this scenario. If you're not being given work that you think is worth your time, or forget worth your time, a positive benefit to you and to your career in the long run, then do that work as hard and as fast as you possibly can so you can go do the other stuff you actually want to do, like plow through. The only way out is through in a lot of those scenarios. But double down, work even harder if that's what it takes to ultimately get to a place you want to be. And that could be one of two things. One thing is you become so good and you contribute so much and your impact is so high that ultimately you do start getting the feedback you're looking for and the kind of ownership over your projects and the respect and the acknowledgement from the company that you really wanted and that drove you to double down in this scenario. Because a lot of times for me, this means getting pissed. Like, this means getting angry and doubling down and investing, my energy into it even more. Either you're gonna get that validation and that acknowledgement that you really want and that you deserve in this scenario, or you double it and give it to the next company. Ultimately, the best talent has lots of options. And so don't think that your fate is sealed. The fundamental mistake that leads to the doom spiral I'm talking about here is the belief that you don't have agency over this external validation, these external acknowledgments and whatnot, accolades from your company or your coworkers or your users or whoever else. And again, I am a person who recognizes that you should really stay focused on your individual inputs and not be sitting around waiting for the validation of others. But I'm also a person who recognizes that the best talent does get acknowledged and does get rewarded. Like, I've seen this, not just in my own career, but in other people's careers who are wildly more successful than I am. There's a saying I really like, which is be so good they can't ignore you. I really believe that. I do believe that there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of crap that gets in the way of people getting the recognition that they deserve, but at a certain level, you will be acknowledged if you are good enough. Like, I really do believe that. And that acknowledgement could either be at this company that realizes how great you are and how much you're contributing, or somewhere else. That's just how the cookie crumbles. And these companies know that too. Like this is not a mystery, because every person at the company is having the same insecurities and questions and inability to measure their own progress towards what they want that you do. We live in a very uncertain environment. And I'm not talking about the world or geopolitics or whatever. I'm just saying we have to make decisions under extreme uncertainty. Like, we can't tell the future. As much as we try to fit lines to the future, it's more of an art than a science sometimes, which is a bit scary when you realize it. But yeah, but my advice, unsolicited advice, I suppose, is in those moments where you are the most doubtful that you are gonna get the recognition that you deserve, those are the moments where you double down and you prove to yourself that you deserve it. And if you go through that enough times, if you push the envelope enough times, you will break out of that loop, either where you are or somewhere else. And the only alternative to that is getting sucked into this loop of, I don't get recognized, so I don't work as hard, and then I get recognized less and I work even less hard. And those are the people who ultimately do become a victim to their circumstance and have no options. Then you're stuck, and then you're doomed to never get the recognition that you actually wanted because you put yourself in that position. Like, always be fighting, always be pushing forward in whatever way it means the most to you at that moment. That changes. Like, that could be money, that could be title, that could be work, that could be direct reports, it could be the company, it could be anything, right? But always keep pushing forward, even if it's unclear to you at that given moment where you're going, or if you're ultimately gonna get there. The only way out is through in a lot of these scenarios. Yeah, that was kind of a off the cuff video. It's just, I've been thinking about my own career and grappling with this concept we're talking about here today over the last couple of weeks, and I get it. Like, I get it now. I've never really had this kind of ambiguous scenario before. For me, it's either been lots of accolades, lots of praise, real strong positive signal that I'm going in the right direction, or flat out rejection. And even flat out rejection in a lot of ways is preferable to what I'm talking about. It's preferable to this deafening silence of not getting any indication of whether or not you're doing the right thing. A flat out rejection at least says, okay, I can move on to the next thing with closure. But this weird doom loop, doom spiral that people get caught in, I understand how this happens to people, and I think it's worth discussing, and the only way out is through. The only way out is pushing through as hard as you possibly can until you're so good they can't ignore you anymore. And yeah, if you're in this scenario, I think that's what you should do. So thanks all for watching. I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for other young engineers like myself. I also make a lot of content about aerospace engineering, pseudo-technical stuff, just for people who are starting off in their career and want to get a better lay of the land of what are the things that you need to know as an aerospace engineer, or even just working in the aerospace industry as a whole. So if any of that stuff interests you, then this is definitely a channel for you. Thanks a lot for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time.